I would rather prefer a same team managing both the things because, like, why are we using the DevSecOps pipeline or why are we using the CI/CD pipeline at first of all? We are deploying our application code onto the cloud environment. So that's why these two things are related to each other. That is why if the single team is managing both the things, now it's easier to look at the security sides, remediating it, automating it, and also taking the ownership. If any kind of a remediation required, we will take care of it. If the teams are separate, no, then there is a question of the ownership. Okay, as a cloud security, I'm saying that there is a risk in the other team CI/CD pipeline, or the DevSecOps team. Okay, now this that is a different thing. So I have to convince them, show them this is the risk or this is the impact of it, which will actually take time, or there can be a friction, bandwidth issues.
Welcome to Season 4 of The Elephant in AppSec, the podcast to explore, challenge, and boldly face the AppSec elephants in the room. I'm Alexandra, your host, AppSec enthusiast, and growth manager at Escape. Today, I'm joined by Anjali Singh Shukla, Senior Security Engineer Cloud at Flipkart. She bridges the worlds of cloud security and DevSecOps, having led audits and advanced strategies across AWS, Azure, and GCP, with a strong focus on Kubernetes and container security. Beyond building secure pipelines, Anjali designs training programs and speaks at global conferences like Black Hat and OWASP. Most recently, at OWASP AppSec Days Singapore, she showed how attackers can exploit AWS misconfigurations and how to defend against them. In this episode, we dive into why DevSecOps alone isn't enough without a deep understanding of cloud and the risks that come with moving fast in modern deployments. Anjali also shares her perspective on securing multi-cloud environments and weighs in on the industry buzz around CNAPP and CSPM and ASPM conversion. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and follow it on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube. It's the best way to avoid missing future episodes. And with that, get ready to hear Anjali's opinions. Dive right in.
So hi, Anjali. I'm super excited to have you with me on the podcast today. I think it was Prashant and Kadesh who recommended you. If I'm not mistaken, right? So I'm super happy that we finally got to talk together. And as we discussed kind of before, you've actually really was passionate initially about the career, in AppSec, and but then shifted more towards like DevSecOps and cloud security. And I saw you recently also like gave the talk, still at the PSAC conference. It was, I think it was almost Bangalore or something like that, where you gave a talk on like AWS security. So kind of migrated towards DevSecOps and cloud. And yeah, what drove that change for you? Why did you kind of?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me at your podcast. So I started my career as an AppSec and DevOps specifically, and I was more inclined towards the DevOps at that time. Though I knew how things works at the AppSec side. So when I started working DevOps, and as I already have the knowledge of AppSec, like how the applications break and how do you actually find the bugs there. So I thought of why not fixing it and why not trying to look at the site at the very first stage of it, like where the problem is actually getting started. So because if you'll notice, the bugs or the misconfigurations are generally because of the issues in the infrastructure or pipeline, or maybe the cloud configuration or the cloud misconfigurations there. So I thought of going there first, and also the how the cloud native environment is changing and how the pace of innovation in the cloud environment, that was really interesting, and I thought of staying there and to be in a cloud security and a DevSecOps.
What were the most exciting innovations that you have seen?
Okay, so when I started on working on a cloud, no, there were approximately 100 or 150 services were there. If you will notice, each month or maybe in each year, we have new services are launching, or maybe there is a change in an existing service, and now we have an AI into the picture. So we have like Vertex AI in GCP, we have a Amazon Bedrock. So we have so many services to try and to play with, and so we can see a two-side picture, like first how the application we will deploy or how we will use that service, and what can go wrong in that particular service, or what are the misconfigurations or maybe the configurations that you are looking at, what should be the best thing for that particular service. So that is why, and also you have like unlike the DC setup, you have a cloud. You just have to make your account, play with the services. You have all other functionalities there. You do not have to go anywhere. You just have your laptop and you are ready to roll. So that is a very good thing with the cloud, like in general
Yeah,
with
I mean,
cloud.
you still need some basis, of course, before you
Yeah.
can just go and roll with something.
But
Let's
I think that you will eventually learn when you're actually looking at the services. So yeah, that is a good thing.
Okay. Because I saw like you love to kind of break down, different things and kind of trying to figure out how everything works. Because I saw on your blog, you broke down different like CTF, how you explored them and how you kind of solved them. Do you think that the problem right now that we have is like with vibe coding, every applications can get deployed in the cloud very quickly without people knowing how the deployments actually work and risks associated with them? What risks do you actually think we will have in the future? Like, will we have less maybe analysis to do because like of that easy deployment part, or it'll actually maybe create some new risks that we don't know about?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I completely support the vibe coding. It's just whichever service or whichever new piece of information you are using, utilizing, you should know the complete. Basically, you should have the information how that service work and what can go wrong if you use in this way. So it's better to have a knowledge about that particular service, and then so if it is in staging environment or you are just doing for the POC, that is fine. But yeah, if let's say I am launching something, I'm writing a code and I'm doing and I'm deploying it at the production level, regardless of the risk associated with that, will actually create a mess, I would say, because I don't know the attack surfaces. That is very new to me. I don't know the if I have followed the security best practices or not. What is the drift there? That is also I'm not aware. So that is where we have to see through the security perspective as well, because when I've seen that when especially the startups or a new tool we are working on, we just do the deployment side of it. We just develop a new tool and then we'll see, okay, we have just started a new company or we just started the business. Let's focus on the development part first. And then we'll see the security, or like basically we consider security as an aftermath. So rather than doing so, we should like the security development, the security should go parallel, hand in hand, so that we are safe at every time. Whether we have built only 50% of the tool, but yes, we should like take care of the especially the supply chain security, like what dependencies are we using, what libraries are we using, where are we deploying it, is it public, or uh, like are we using a CI/CD pipeline to deploy it, are we hard coding any secrets or API token, or like even in the vibe coding as well, like how basically how our application is doing, and how if we are connecting with the cloud, or how basically we are doing the authorization and authentications. If we are doing, or if we are planning to create something that requires an authentication, or maybe any times of any kind of an access controls there. So I think that is, if you're following that, that is at the initial point, that is a really good to have, must to have practice.
Think it's sometimes very hard, in the startups and the smaller organizations to handle it all, or to hire for, let's say, someone. Probably usually you hire someone who's more generalist, and then kind of you expand in any role and becoming more specialized. Like on your side, I know you build, secure pipeline from scratch. You started more like on the DevSecOps side, and then more like cloud security. Who do you think we should hire actually first? Someone who can manage DevSecOps, or someone who knows more about cloud security?
Okay, so I would prefer a person who knows both, but yeah, it depends upon the requirement and the size of the organization as well, like how the teams are divided. Do we have a same team managing the cloud security and a DevSecOps both, or do we have a separate team for that? I would rather prefer a same team managing both the things, because like why are we using the DevSecOps pipeline, or why are we using the CI/CD pipeline at first of all? We are deploying our application code onto the cloud environment. So that's why these two things are related to each other. They don't go separately, but yeah, they are related. So that is why if the single team is managing both the things, now it's easier to look at the security sides, remediating it, automating it, and also taking the ownership of that particular thing, that okay, this is our ownership, whether it is a cloud security or whether it is a CI/CD pipeline. If any case of or any kind of a remediation required, we will take care of it. If the teams are separate, no, then there is a question of the ownership. Okay, as a cloud security, I'm saying that there is a risk in the other team CI/CD pipeline or the DevSecOps team. Okay, now that is a different thing. So I have to convince them, show them this is the risk or this is the impact of it, which will actually take time, or there can be a friction, bandwidth issue. So multiple issues are there. So if the single person knows both the things, or the single team in an organization managing both, that smooths your work and easier to remediate and scans and everything.
Have you
So the
had
single
as
person.
yeah? I think sometimes it's hard to combine it in the two, especially like in a larger organizations. As I've seen, cloud security and DevSecOps are just very separate entities. I think now some of the bigger organizations, more on the security tooling side, kind of try to combine both worlds and like cloud and code, but it's quite hard to do because the mentality is also not always, and the budgets especially are not always
Right.
the same for both. Did you have in your experience a situation where you actually, the fact that you know both areas helped you specifically to achieve the security goal?
As in, so security goals depends upon the requirement of the organizations. Like, okay, this is the existing security controls we already have in place, and now we have to take it to a next level. So now what, and like what I mean by next level, whether do I have to put so if I have a multi-cloud environment, so what is the approach that I can follow that can be utilized in both the, let's say I have a two or three clouds. So all the cloud platform, I can use the same approach, because I could not say that there is a single policy that can be applied in all three, because we can have the concepts or the security controls can be same. Like we have to look in the IM misconfiguration sites, then we have to look at the encryption sites, public and a private resources, but the approach varies from cloud to cloud, because in GCP we have a different like the way IAM works is different from the way it works in case of an AWS. In AWS we have a service control policies that we can use at a very higher level to basically to have a common control if we have to restrict a region or an instance type, or for example like this, that we can use a SAP. Similarly we can do it in with respect to the like similar approach or similar usage can be performed by the organization policy in GCP. Whereas in GCP we have a different next level services, like we can use a VPCSC or the like we have workload identity federations. So it depends on you or the organization's requirement, like how you would like to take it into a next directions. And similarly we have a different approach in case of an Azure as well. Azure, we have a whole new concept of an Entra ID, Azure AD. So so it depends like on which cloud you would like to focus on. First of all, you can decide, okay, I have a majority of a deployment, a majority of my infrastructure on a cloud, or maybe it can be an AWS, so I can start with AWS. And then that's how I can prioritize, keeping the concept same, but the strategies can be different from all three clouds.
Okay, so you would recommend start with the one where the most applications are deployed, and then kind of adapt if you need to other environments, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. Like last year, we did a report internally on like the state of API exposure, and I think it was more than 50% of APIs that were found were deployed on AWS. So which was kind of not a surprise, but
Yeah.
still, I think AWS kind of dominates. I don't know how it was in your experience, but yeah, in cloud deployment, would you consider it, for example, for someone who just starts learning about like cloud security? Would you recommend them to learn about what matters for different cloud, or maybe for in general for all the deployments of the applications?
So if one wants to start in cloud security, I would recommend to have at least the basic understanding of the cloud one. I generally like it depends on you which cloud you would like to first. So because I have seen that many times freshers or the people that comes to me that, okay, we have, let's say, AWS in our environment and we would like to start with an AWS first of all. So I'm like, okay, you would like to start with any cloud, you can pick out of AWS, Azure, GCP, or maybe you can say that, okay, as of now, I am this organization and I have, let's say, Azure in my organization. So they start with that cloud generally. And to start with, I generally recommend the mostly common services, like mostly widely used services. Like we have a server, it can be EC2 instances in case of an AWS, compute engine in case of a GCP. So the servers first of all, and then IAM, identity and access management, be the second that you can start with. Then we have a buckets like storage account or buckets that we can use. Fourthly, you can also look into the monitoring services, and then further you can look at the serverless side, Kubernetes, how it works. So you can pick the one service one by one, and then you can see, okay, that's the just the basics of it. That's how the services work. And then what are the misconfigurations that um, are present or that can be present in this particular service. In service related, we have a metadata API, then IAM role that we attach to a server. So like this, we see, okay, these are the misconfigurations that may lead to, basically, that can be a part of an attack services, or there can be a vulnerability in an application as well. Like one like the EKS goat, the one we have created, we have actually leveraged a CV that was present in Jenkins, and using that, how basically with like by using or by exploiting that one vulnerability in Jenkins, you can have access on the entire cluster. So I think that's the real life or the real world scenario that is missing these days. That's why I like to play with the CTFs as well, because it gives me the understanding of, okay, how the attack path, or what are the, like, from where we have to start when I'm doing maybe the scanning or pen testing in the cloud applications, or the applications that are deployed in the cloud. So yeah, these are the services that I would recommend, that if you want to start into cloud security, you can start with these services first of all.
Okay, and how would you, for example, recommend someone to explore this attack path, in their organization? What are different steps that you would take to actually draw this diagram of how someone could actually access your applications? Because, if you have multi-cloud environments, different policies, different teams, it can be very tough to just say, okay, this is the way we should approach it. Like, this is our diagram. This is how someone can access our application. Is there automations that you've put in place, for example, personally for that?
So when we are doing, so as I'm a part of an organization, so internally I would I will take an approach. So I will I will start with the basic scanning with the read-only access, and then I will see that what are the information I have. Do I have any overprivileged IAM role that I found in that scanning, or am I able to, or maybe I found some credentials on the GitHub and that credentials are still working. So I will see that, okay, what with these credentials, it can be a API key, or it can be a key string of a storage account in Azure, or it can be a service account token of my GCP environment. So first of all, I will check that whether those credentials are valid, in the active state or not, and then I will see that what are the permissions these credentials are having. And yes, so you have, as a internal employee, you have two options. Either you can leverage your CSPM if you have. If not, then you can use the open source solution to see that, okay, what are the, like if there is a high risk, a high, low, medium issues we are getting in that report. If not, then if you want to, or if someone wants to start a very fresh, then yes, it will require a lot of challenge, because you have to pick one thing, either one account in AWS, or maybe a GitHub account that you can start with, or you can find some credentials sometimes in like if you have an access to some secret manager. Generally this is not I mean, I've not seen this kind of an approach. Either you find something on GitHub, or you find something, maybe you found an IP that is basically a publicly accessible VM, that is some application is running or something is running onto that. You find an open port, so that's how you check As an internally, you just can get the like is an easier, little easier. You get the CSPM findings or you get the open source findings, and then you basically you link those things. Okay, that this is the one I'm getting. It can be generally we are looking for the IAM misconfigurations because it will give you a further step like in which direction you have to move further, or a service account in GCP, or IAM role credentials in AWS. So it depends like on which cloud you are on. It can be a storage account or the HMAC keys in Azure and in GCP respectively. So yeah, it depends.
Okay, so the answer, the conclusion is kind of it depends on your environment and the way your organization is actually set up. And what do you think about the fact that, I mean, I've talked, I think, for the past year with a lot of both actually on the cloud security and the mainly on application security side practitioners. And a lot of people mentioned to me that potentially we're kind of going towards conversion between CSPM and ASPM, which is more cloud and application security side. And that's what, for example, Wiz is doing, with this cloud, this code kind of now. Do you think that it will actually happen? Because you have experience, both on like DevSecOps side and cloud security side, or do you think it's just like more platforms that are on the top that are trying to converge it into one solutions to actually maybe take a bigger share of the market revenue?
I have mostly seen CSPM. I've seen the ASPM as well. But as of now, I think these are just an acronym because if there is a like if there is an organization and they are into the cloud, so first tool they should have is a CSPM. Later, or if the same tool is giving you the ASPM capabilities as well, then that is an add-on or a plus point. But yeah, so because the CSPM will actually help you to give you the findings, and if that is leading you, or if you're able to make a correlation between a CSPM finding and ASPM finding, then that is a good point. But yeah, CSPM I would recommend, and I have mostly seen. And even if a startup or if you're organization which are looking to get a tool or looking to basically get a commercial or the prepaid solution, then I think one should go for the CSPM first of all, and then later they can look into the ASPM or there are so many posture management tools.
Yeah, I think probably ASPM vendors would argue with you
Right.
there, but I think it's understandable that side. And what do you think about CNAP? Because, for example, last year the Elephant and AppSec conference, James Bertotti, he was arguing about that CNAP is kind of absolute at this point. Do you agree with this point of view?
Yeah, so CSPM gives you a better picture. It depends if your organization wants a CSPM or a CNAP, because
Okay.
obviously CNAP has more features and it has the more like it should be a budget friendly at the end, satisfying your requirement.
Because is it only about budget, or what kind of features do you think would organizations would absolutely want if they need to validate a bigger budget to get it?
So, first of all, I think in any tool you're looking for, the first thing I think we should get if it is give you the real time alerts or not. Because as soon as the incident happen, then you should get an alert maybe within 30 seconds or a one in it. Then the second thing, let's say you have basically it is able to get the picture of an attack path or not without, or I would say less false positives.
Well, I think there are always a lot. Yeah, not depending on the tool, but yeah, false positives, I don't think 100% will ever go
Yeah.
away. Yeah, but it's just a more question of a time it takes you to triage them and go through them and kind of eliminate. Did you have also unique visibility, but the DevSecOps is all about like shifting left, optimizing deployment, fixing everything before it gets deployed into the production,
Right.
while like cloud security, it's being deployed in the
Of the
cloud.
yeah.
Do you think quite often like DevSecOps teams do not go deep enough at the start into the cloud related risk or cloud specific risk? Like they don't think yet about, how they're going to deploy their Docker container.
So I have seen people utilizing DevSecOps only as a part of a tool, like automated scanning tool integrated in a CI/CD pipeline. Findings, okay, we are getting. Whereas uh, it should be an approach rather than just tool integrated in a pipeline. So shift left generally, like basically it means that you are identifying a risk at a very early stage and then fixing it. So there, one thing that should be there, if there are high alert or medium alerts are there, they should not build the pipeline. Basically the pipeline should fail then and there. And when once the issues are fixed, I'm 100% agreeing to that, that yes, it will take time, because if there are SCA, your package related issue, it will take time. You have to see if your application supports a new version of that particular package. You will do the testing and then you will come back, okay, yes, our application is supporting, we have this new build and it is having, or it has a reduced alert. So yes, it will take time, but if you're fixing it at an initial step, that's really a good approach that one organization can take. Because otherwise what will happen, if you build a package that there is a vulnerable package, you build your code and that code is deployed onto the cloud environment, and then again your cloud security or your CSPM solutions will detect that tool. Or if you are doing internal pen testing of the application, in case if it is related to that, so they will also find basically the same issue will be reported by different other tools. And then again, then you will see, okay, now we should fix this tool. For example, log4j was there, so it will require a a hard work. You have to test your application with an updated version, and then you have to rebuild it and deploy it. So if it is taken care at the initial stage with that mindset or with that approach, then that's really good. Another thing, a very simple approach that can be taken, how you're managing your credentials. Are they hard coded in a CI/CD pipeline in terms of a variables or in a YAML file, or you are using a secret manager solutions to store them? So that is one big loophole or a gap that I have seen mainly in a CI/CD pipeline. So that approach also can be taken care of at the initial stage.
It's very interesting because, I mean, at this point, there are so many already advanced technologies, but people still have problems, to hard code their credentials,
Right.
make them available publicly. Like, doesn't, yeah, I think still the basics probably need to be improved first, like the security basics, and then we can talk about like very advanced technologies. Do you think it's something that is kind of the fault of the sometimes the security leadership that, or more like it's really the developers that don't have enough education of not from the start, not to, for example, hardcode their credentials?
I think actually it should be, it's a collective
Mm.
effort, I would say, that developers, if I think these days developers are also like they are aware of the concept of security. They know, okay, this is the from where we have to get that package. It shouldn't be malicious. They also know how to read the reports and all. So I think they also have a pretty much good understanding these days, developers. And then as a security leadership, I think they should not go directly into the tool rather than just focusing on the tool. The security approach or the mindset should be followed or should be adapted. Because if we are taking care of each and everything, especially the credentials or the misconfigurations that are wide known, and we are practicing it or we are following it, like in Kubernetes we have security context, we have OPA. Similarly, in cloud also we have service specific, at least the known misconfigurations we already have. So if we are taking care of these along with the DevSecOps, the practice or the approach, I think that should be there. I think that point is missing. That approach or that mindset is missing, because I think this is considered, if we have purchased a tool and then automated scanning is completed, and we are not getting, or we are getting the less alerts, that are then our environment is secure, safe and secure. No, I think this is another a red flag if you're not getting an alert in your environment, because there cannot be 100% perfect picture. There should be something that you have to keep looking onto it.
I think I had a conversation with someone about that in the security. You should never be a perfectionist. Like you have to kind of
Right.
get away from the perfectionist mindset. I think it was with Olga at one of the last episodes of
I think
previous
it's a
season. It was
continuous process.
yeah, it's a continuous process. You will never have a perfect result. You'll always have something, that you
Right.
have to fix, and you have to accept that you can't fix everything all at once, and you have to prioritize and accept certain risk depending on the appetite of your organization. And there is one question I always ask at this season. What do you think is the most overrated security buzzword and why?
Overrated security buzzword.
Yeah.
I would say security certifications.
Okay. Interesting. Why?
Because I have seen like many people or many freshers, they come to me that which certification we should go for. And I'm like, certification is one thing. At least you understand what the certification is trying to teach you. Because these days, people think that certification is just to get a job. I think the whole idea behind the certification was to understand that concept, the course material. Like we used to have an examination back in our college, we go through the material, we go through the course, understand the service, or understand okay how the things are working in actually or a practical environment. These days, certification, okay, I have the certification, I'll get a job easily.
Well, I think sometimes it's partially the problem indeed of getting jobs. Sometimes the problem of popularization of companies that give out certifications because they want to receive the money that they're getting for those. Sometimes it's also organizational problem because I already had people like who I've asked about. They were preparing for CISP and like, why do you actually spend time on that? And they told me because I know without it I can't get a management position. At least that was in Europe. So
Right.
it's sometimes depending, let's say in the country, it can also be unfortunately just I need to pass the certification for the sake of it because otherwise I can't go into management, which is wrong
I'm not
because good
against,
yeah. I mean good
I'm not
manager is
against,
not the one who has the certification.
but I'm just at least understand if you have done any certification, at least you should know about the course.
Yeah, but sometimes, like with the exam at the university, it happened to me that if I hate the subject, I just learn by heart, get a good
Right,
grade,
right.
and then, yeah, that's it. So I think that's just a part of human behavior that's fortunately gets from the time we're studying into our kind of adult career
Right.
afterwards. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Anjali, for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and thank you for sharing your experience and your insights.
Thank you so much.